Greetings, everyone. This is Jeff Wilkerson, Professor of Physics at Luther College, bringing you the next in our series of What to Look For in the Night Sky. We're talking about the week of November 21, 2022 this time around. That's Thanksgiving week for those of us here in the United States. So we're going to center around Jupiter to start this. And so you go outside, and it's dark. Jupiter's already well up in the sky, shining brightly. It's going to be the brightest object out there. And Jupiter will be, as it gets dark, Jupiter will still be a little bit east of due south, so it's still rising higher in the sky, but not for long. It reaches its highest point in the sky for me somewhere around 8 p.m. In this coming week. And so Jupiter's there. And we're going to look at a line of stars stretching out from Jupiter about 20 degrees in either direction. Remember, a fist held out at arm's length is about 10 degrees, so we're talking about two fist widths here, southeast of Jupiter. So you go southeast of Jupiter, two fist widths, and you get down to Diphda. This is a bright star. It's the beta star in Cetus, the sea monster. Now, this is where I've usually seen Diphda as the name of this star. It's a bright second magnitude star. So these are fainter stars in between here. It's the brightest star you come to. It's the next star you come to that you look at and you say, oh, it really pops out as a decently bright star. And I've often seen this. I've typically seen this as Diphda in sky catalogs and star charts. But I have also seen it as Deneb Kaitos. And we've been talking a lot about Deneb showing up all over the place. Deneb is Arabic for tail. And given that this is a sea monster, I don't know Kaitos, but I'm going to guess this is tail of the sea monster, or tail of the sea creature, is what this is going to translate as. We go to Allen for star names, their meaning and lore by Allen, and I recommend it if you want to read about these things for these names. But he doesn't have much to say about this star, and doesn't have either of these names in there, actually. And so we're getting a little bit far south for Northern Hemisphere observers when we push down this direction. So there's a Northern Hemisphere bias in what you read about the sky. There's a Northern Hemisphere bias in these videos that I'm shooting for you because I live at mid-northern latitude. I live at 43 degrees north latitude. I walk outside. That's the sky I see. That's what's on my mind. That's what I know. That's what I'm familiar with looking up at. And that's a lot of the writings that I'm familiar with then have that sort of Northern Hemisphere bias to them. And I'm guessing that some of you who are in the Southern Hemisphere might have readings that have a somewhat Southern Hemisphere bias to them as well. But this is getting pretty far south for those of us at 43 degrees north latitude. So we only see this for a short period of time each fall here in the sky. And it's time to go out and enjoy it. You go 20 degrees or so the other direction, a couple of fist widths up the other direction, a little further, and you get to Markab. And Markab is the alpha star in Pegasus. So this is the lower right corner of the great square of Pegasus up this direction here. So Markab is another bright star. Second magnitude star is Diphda. Markab is a second and a half, 2.5 magnitude star. These are both pretty easy stars to see. You don't need terribly dark skies to be able to see those stars. Now, in between there, as we draw this line from Jupiter, from Diphda, through Jupiter up to Markab, we're playing fast and loose there a little bit. It's almost a line. And we pass through Iota Ceti down here. Iota Ceti is a 3.6 magnitude star, so definitely visible. You don't need the darkest of dark skies to be able to see it, but it's not super bright. And it's about halfway between Diphda and Jupiter. So this is also in Cetus, and so you see if you can identify that star sitting squarely between Diphda and Jupiter. You go up the other direction, and we'll split this in quarters, going up toward Markab. The first quarter of the way from Jupiter up to Markab is Lambda Piscium, the Lambda star in Pisces, and then you got the Theta star in Pisces, another quarter of the way up toward Markab. These are both fainter than fourth magnitude, 4.5 and 4.3 magnitude. They're part of what's known as the circlet of Pisces. We've talked about that a couple of times before. But see if you can identify these stars along the way. There's not a lot along that path of stars that are brighter than that. If you have binoculars and you want to use those to help you out, that's great. But you should, if it's a good dark sky, you should be able to see these stars. But you're starting to get, when you get down to fourth and fifth magnitude stars, yeah, they're visible. You got to have, they're not visible if you got any kind of haze or moon glow or stuff like that. It starts to wash them out. and they're starting to disappear into the sea of background stars. That is to say, there are a lot more stars that are fifth magnitude than there are that are fourth magnitude, and there's a lot more that are fourth magnitude than are third magnitude, and there's a lot more that are third magnitude than second magnitude. You get the idea. And so you're starting to get a sea of stars that eats this up. So this is our, to try to identify, so that's what we're going to do this week. We're going to go outside, we're going to find Jupiter, we're going to appreciate Jupiter for what it is, and then we're going to draw a line from southeast to northwest of Jupiter and see if we can identify this string of stars along there. Now, all of these stars are stars within our Milky Way galaxy. We live in the Milky Way galaxy, about 200 billion stars. Every star you go outside and you look at, we've talked about this before too, I'm sure, to say it's like being in a forest and you see all the individual trees of trees that are near you. You see them as individual trees, and those are the stars that you see. And we live in the forest that is the Milky Way, all of these stars. It blends in. When you see the hazy band that we call the Milky Way, that's the disk of our spiral galaxy, and that's the background forest that all of those individual trees, individual stars in this case, merge into that background. So that's what's going on. All of these stars we just talked about are individual stars that we see in the Milky Way. But we're going to think about a few other galaxies while we're here, while we're doing this. So just about 3 degrees south of Markab is NGC 7479. So that's NGC 7479 is a spiral galaxy that is an interesting spiral galaxy, but not the easiest spiral galaxy to see. But so you take about 3 degrees, you've got a telescope. All of these are going to be telescopic objects, I think, for you. So if you've got a decent backyard telescope, doesn't have to be huge, but decent, try to scan 3 degrees straight south, more or less, 2.9 degrees straight south of Markab, and see if you can find NGC 7479. It's going to look like a faint smudge of light. It's not going to be one of these things that wows you with how impressively beautiful it is. What it's going to wow you with is the recognition that that faint smudge of light is far enough away that it can be a spiral galaxy like the Milky Way with our hundreds of billions of stars, and it just is barely visible to you right there. And you can appreciate that for what it is, another galaxy like our own. If we slide all the way down to the other end, near Diphda, you go about the same distance south-southeast of Diphda, and you're going to get to NGC 247. Now, I think NGC 247 is a little brighter and a little easier to see, except it's so far darn south for me. So if you're watching this from 15 degrees or 20 degrees south of where I happen to be living at 23 degrees north latitude, this is going to really improve the viewing down here. But even up here, I can see these galaxies down here, and I appreciate seeing these galaxies down here. So try to find NGC 247, understanding you're looking through a lot more atmosphere and a lot more haze, and it's going to be a little trickier to see because of that. But it's about the same distance south-southeast of Diphda. Now, straight south of Diphda, about 7.5 degrees, so about 3/4 of the distance from Diphda to Iota Ceti, you're going to come to NGC 253. At NGC 253, you've actually crossed. You're out of Cetus now. You've actually crossed into Sculptor, is the constellation you're in down here now. And this NGC 253 is a fabulous galaxy. If it were further north, given the northern hemisphere bias that much of the writing has, and that like I have, if it were further north, it would be an acclaimed galaxy, much like the Andromeda Galaxy, a big spiral galaxy in Andromeda on up that direction. But this galaxy is so far south, it's a lot harder to see, and it's only up over the horizon for a little while. But now's the time to go out and see it. Sometimes called the Sculptor Galaxy. On our webpage, astronomy.luther.edu or www.luther.edu/astronomy, you can find a picture of this galaxy that you get a sense of how spectacular this galaxy is. And you can find other pictures out there. It's just a fantastic galaxy, and it's worth trying to find, to take a look at. But this is 7.5 degrees south of Diphda. It means it's really far south for many of us. And so you've got to catch it when it's at its highest point in the sky and when it's dark and there's no moon around. So its highest point in the sky, if Jupiter reaches its highest point in the sky for me at about 8 o'clock, we're talking about 10 o'clock or later is probably, it's good and solid dark, and some of the moisture might have fallen out of the air by 10, so maybe 10 to 2 in the morning. So 10 o'clock at night to 2 in the morning might be a time to go out here and try to find these galaxies down here. Pay special attention to the Sculptor Galaxy. Find these stars across here. Enjoy Jupiter for what it is. Take a look at some galaxies if you've got a telescope to do so. And I hope you have great skies, and I hope you have a great week. So get out there and observe if you can, and we'll have something more and new for you next week. As always, thanks for watching.